Hello, this is Pod, and I will talk about After Effects today. So on this clip here, we'll start with a basic idea about After Effects. Adobe After Effects is a very well-known visual effects and video compositing software. So in other words, if you're familiar with Photoshop, After Effects is a Photoshop for video, in my opinion. And let's start with the user interface of After Effects. You have two choices at the beginning: a new composition and also a new composition from footage. So in this particular case here, we start from scratch and we don't have any footage. So let's start new composition. And on the new composition, you will have the default name on COM1, and the preset as far as After Effects concerned, right, is mostly support output for the video. So you can see a list of video and also 4K movie and also a cinema, 2K, 4K cinema, and even 8K. Okay, so in this particular case here, we choose HD TV at 25 frames per second, which is 1920 pixel by 1080 pixel, and the aspect ratio is 16:9. The pixel aspect ratio, we use a square pixel, 25 frames per second, resolution full, and the time code start from 0, all 0, and duration. There are 4 groups of number. The first group is 1 digit, is referred to hours. Second group is referred to minute, and the third group is referred to second, and the last group is referred to frame, number of frame, and the background color. So the background color you can set either by use color picker to pick the color, or the default is black. So in this particular one, I'm just go with pale gray red on that. Okay, so now I look at this screen, composition 1 as a default. So on the composition 1, you have right now it's fit up to 100%, so it's showing at 48.8%. If you're familiar with Adobe Creative Suite, right, you probably do not take that much time to familiar with Adobe After Effects at all. Okay, let's talk a bit about the user interface. The user interface of After Effects, you have a list of tools on the top right under your menu, and bottom you see the COM1 with the resolution size of video of your composition, and the duration. In this case here, we go with 30 seconds at 25 frames per second at full HD resolution. And then you have the list of the file you import. So in this particular case, I do not import anything yet, so I have no file to import. But I have one solid blue on that. All right. Okay, we'll explain about that. Okay, let's delete this one first. Okay, so that means I have only COM1. And then on the timeline, so this is important. So this timeline here, you will have current time indicator, so to scroll through your 30 seconds, and also you have the magnify zoom to your timeline, so you can see move toward big mountain, something like that. And then you have a list of layer on here, and also on the right corner, when you click on it, right, you have info, you have audio, you have preview, preset, alignment, library, so all the extra window on that. And I like to point out one more thing here. When you click on this icon, you will have the first option is something called title action save. Okay, so this is going to show you the grid, which is the biggest grid that you have, is called action save area. So if you want your action to be show, you know, in the standard broadcasting, so you don't want your action to go beyond that frame, that grid right there. And then on the second, a bit smaller, so we call title save area. So in this particular area here, if you want your title to be read and, you know, fit perfectly, so you don't want your title to go beyond that area. And also you have these two particular vertical grid here, so it's cropping to make it standard definition. So in the case that you want your movie to be fit in the standard broadcasting when they crop, so you probably want everything to fit in that particular frame. Okay, however, I think since most of the screen or TV right now, it just go with the resolution at least full HD, so you do not have to worry about that. All right, and then okay, let's start with some basic on here. I'm going to create something on here, and you see the possibility what you can do with After Effects. So you can import almost any kind of images, you know, even illustrator file over. However, in this particular demonstration, I'm going to create a new, and on this new here, you're going to have a few options. If you look at the option, right, you have text, solid, list, camera, new objects, shape layer, and adjustment layer, Adobe Photoshop file, and also Maxon Cinema 4D file. So okay, let's start with the solid. What is the solid? Solid is just a graphic layer that you can create and define the color. Okay, in this particular one, I'm going to define as the blue, okay, dark blue. And then, okay, make to the composite, right? So now I have one solid layer on the top, and the solid layer is also show up on my layer timeline. Now I'm going to create a shape on this particular one, right? I choose the star shape, and you can see when I choose the star shape here, right, I will be able to use the arrow up and arrow down to adjust the star, the amount of the star, something like that. And then I can hold down my shift key like that. So now you can see my blue layer become the star. And if you look at this aspect here, you're going to see the blue, the part that I draw, the star I draw, is referred as a mask. And you also have transformation. Okay. Let's see. Transform. Okay, transform. The transform is the aspect that you can animate, such as you can do. Okay, let's try the first one. The first one is called anchor point, right? Anchor point is the center of the object. So in this particular one, the center is referred to the center of the screen. And then position is allow you to move your object around. So in this case here, if I move my position, you will see the anchor point also moving along. All right. And then scale, of course, you can do scaling, make it big or small. And then rotation. Okay, in this particular rotation here, you're going to see quite obvious, because the relation between the anchor point and the rotation is really quite important, because right now you can see the anchor point is just right, off the object. So when you rotate, it's just off the center. Okay, so in this particular one, right, I undo this, right, and what I'm going to do, okay, let's go to edit and undo it. And then what I like to do, I like to adjust the anchor point, right? I can adjust the anchor point by dragging the number slightly like that and make it center, something like that. So that is the one way to do it, by clicking on the number and doing that. So now when I rotate it, right, so it's going to rotate right to the center. Now let me undo it. Okay. All right. So one thing I can point out here, After Effects can do a multiple undo. And now instead of adjust the anchor point, by drag the number on the anchor point layer, right? So you can press Y on your keyboard. And then when you press Y on your keyboard, right, you can just click, right? Oops, sorry. Press Y on the keyboard. And after you press Y on the keyboard, you can drag the anchor point visually. That's it. So now anchor point is just go right on the center as well. Right? Okay, let me undo that. And then, okay, let's come back to the rotation. You can see now is 0x, right? So 0x is mean 0 rotation. And the number behind is the degree. Like if you go to 1 rotation, you can make it like 360 degree. And if you want to go rotation 5 times, I just punch in 5x. That's it. So all the shortcut of all this is, the first one, anchor point is A, right? And then A is anchor point. You press A on the keyboard. And then P for position, and S for scale, and T for opacity. So in this case here, I just want to move it and just show you how to make it as animation. So I press P for position, and then I change the to selection tool and move it to one side of the screen. And then if I want this object to go across the screen in 1 second, all right, in 1 second. So in this particular one, we have a few settings here. Okay, so now first I'm going to show you how I'm going to make a keyframe. So let's click on the stopwatch. So when you click on the stopwatch, you automatically add a diamond on the timeline. So this is your first keyframe. And then the next step, you move it to the destination keyframe. So in this case here, I like to move it to second 4. All right. So you can also change the number mathematically here. So in this case here, I want to move this object, right? Oops, sorry. So I want to move this object across the screen. So I can do mathematically. Okay, let's see. Undo that, and okay, I move it across the screen. Or you can punch in the number on that. Okay, so now let's do some adjustment. Okay, let's see. So now you can see the star was moving across the screen. Okay, so what I like to do here a bit here, if I decide, okay, this animation was too long, 30 seconds, so I'm going to change it. So I go to my composition setting, and instead of 30 seconds, right, I'm going to change it to 3 seconds. So I'm going to do 0, 3 on that. All right, and then hit OK. So now I got my 30 seconds, and then I want to move the position a bit longer. Okay, now let's press spacebar so you can view it. What else you can do with this? Of course, you can do with this option in many ways. For example, you can toggle this one, right? And you can play with scale. Okay, now I'm going to adjust this back to the beginning, and now I'm going to add a keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch on scale. Okay, so now I like to scale this star down a bit, right, to 27%, or I can do it mathematically like 30%. Press 3 and 0 and enter. And then what I like to do, right, I like to add rotation. So I want the rotation at the end. Okay, at the end. Okay, let's add the keyframe on the scale, and from 30% make it 100%. Right, and then on the opacity, okay, you can check on the okay, let's try the rotation first. At the beginning is 0 rotation, and how many times you want this thing to rotate, the star to rotate. For example, if I want to rotate 5 times, okay, so I do 5 and enter. Okay, so now let's press spacebar to review. So now you can see the star moving across the screen in 3 seconds. All right, that's it, easy. And then okay, let's see. Okay, so now after you're done, right, you can also, let's try one last thing here. I like to change the opacity, make it from 0 opacity to 100% opacity at the end. Okay, now press spacebar and try it. Right, so now you can see this since it's a vector, so you can scale, you know, as much as you like without worry about losing the image definition on that. Okay, I'd like to point out a bit here on the list, so you can enable motion blur and also enable the layer that you want to be blur. And now let's see what happened. Okay, between enable motion blur and not enable, you can see when you enable motion blur, right, it gives you more realistic, you know, of your object. So the idea is if your object moving fast, the blur will be more obvious. If your object moving slow, will be less obvious. All right. And then what I like to show you here about the position, you see the between point A and point B, right? You see now each object, it travel, the space between each frame is equally. You can also modify or alter the part by clicking and drag, you know, to make your animation part is like smoother, something like that, instead of straight line. So you can go like a curve on that. Okay, let's try, and now let's play. Okay, so now you can see the object is moving. All right, So that is the basic idea about animation in After Effects.